jazz isn't born in Storyville, but it gets refined in Storyville. It starts becoming a business. People who play jazz start making money, and they make money. Now, jazz stays in New Orleans until 1917. In 1917, the United States Navy shuts down Storyville, presumably because the sailors are spending all their time and all their money in Storyville and not, Bible study or crochet or whatever it is that sailors normally spend their time in. And the odd thing is that 1917 is the year Kid Orleans and Louis Armstrong leave New Orleans. It's in 1917 that jazz starts radiating out from New Orleans, hits St. Louis, hits Chicago, and eventually gets to New York. So if it weren't for Storyville, again, we wouldn't have jazz. Yeah, go ahead. Storyville was actually not in the French Quarter. It was basically that part of town over there, over near the. There's a Holiday Inn. I forget the exact thing, but it's Iberville on the other side of Rampart. Iberville on down to I think around Tulane Avenue now. So it wasn't a very big. It's sort of like the French Quarter. It's not a very big place, but it was a very, very resident place. Storyville now, unfortunately, most of the old buildings are gone because it was a slum, and it got bulldozed sometime around the 1950s, 1960s. So,
what was jazz a slang term for?
Jazz, J-A-S-S, was a slang term. It was. How do I put this politely? It was a slang term for sex. There you go. Let's just ride on past that. Now, the other thing that happens in Congo Square. In 1793, there is a slave uprising in Haiti. And Haiti, the slaves win. It's the only time in the American hemisphere that there's a slave revolt that is successful. A lot of the slave owners get booted out of Haiti, and some of them move here because they speak French. So they come here. One of them is a woman named Sante Dede. Sante Dede is a voodoo practitioner. And while she is here, she meets up with a young local girl, and she decides to train him. That local girl's name is Marie Laveau. And the reason I bring you to this block is because this is the block where Marie Laveau lived. This was her house. Unfortunately, the buildings have changed since her time, but mainly it's thought one of these three homes was where she lived. It was in this general area. And you will notice it's about a block and a half to Congo Square, and it's about 3 blocks to St. Louis Cathedral. And she was, pretty much all around, she was described as a good Catholic woman. She spent every day of her life, at least partially, at the church. Now, a lot of things are said about Marie Laveau, mainly because she's such a famous character down here. Everybody wants a slice. Everybody wants to be associated with her, right? We have it on good account, for example, that Marie Laveau was a tall, short, dark-skinned, light-skinned woman, free woman of color. We know that by first-hand association. What does that mean? Well, we don't know. All of the sources have this in common. They say she was an extraordinary, beautiful woman. They said she was an amazing dancer, and she was a very powerful woman. Now, when she is young, she marries a gentleman by the name of Paris. The marriage lasts about 2 or 3 years, and then Paris leaves. He either dies or he just escapes. She spends the rest of her life known as the Widow Paris. And this is important because a widow in the 1800s has a lot more power than a single woman. If you're 25 years old and you're not married in the 1830s, you're a spinster and nobody wants anything to do with you. If you're 25 years old and you're a widow, well, that's okay. What's funny is she does fall in love later on. She meets a gentleman by the name of Glapion. They get married, they move in together, they have they have at least 3 children together, all daughters, all also named Marie, which is not uncommon because this is, as I said, a very Catholic city. Not really that uncommon. Now, Marie makes her money as a hairdresser. Now, that sounds kind of weird, but consider she's a hairdresser to the rich and powerful in this city. Now, she gains her power because she's a hairdresser to, like I said, to the rich and powerful. When you go to get your hair cut, what's the first thing you do, ladies? You talk, right. Now imagine talking to one of the most powerful voodoo priestesses in the world. You're telling her your problems. And she looks to you and she says, put this in your teeth for a week. You'll be all right. You know you're going to be all right. You know, what happens is these women will come up and they'll talk, they'll say, oh, you know, my daughter, she can't find a good man. And then next week she'll be cutting somebody else's hair, she'll be saying, oh, I got a son, he can't find a good wife. And Marie Laveau will go, we'll connect the dots. But not voodoo, but still a part of her power base. She becomes a very powerful, very influential woman. And she remains that to her dying day. She passes away in 1888, aged about, she's born around 1800, so she's about 88 years old when she passes away. Of her 3 daughters, one of them takes up the mantle in the 1870s. And this is another part of the Marie Laveau mystique. Imagine this, you're walking down the road here in 1870s New Orleans, and you see a Creole woman. She is in her 70s, but she's still very, very healthy, very, good posture, beautiful face, and you see her walking down with her chignon tied, and you are told in no uncertain terms that is Marie Laveau. She is the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. And you go, wow. Now imagine a couple weeks later, you see another woman that looks a lot like her, only she's 40 years younger, and you are told, that's Marie Laveau. She's the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. That's where part of the mythos from her comes from. And there's a big difference between what scholars call Marie Laveau I, the original Marie Laveau, and Marie Laveau II, her daughter. Marie Laveau II blows the doors off of voodoo. She makes it a public affair. The old Marie Laveau wouldn't tell you that she was practicing voodoo on your behalf. It would just be, oh, put this in your teeth. Sleep with this under your pillow. Do this, do that. You'll be all right. Nobody asks any questions. Marie Laveau II says, you want a love charm? Come to me. You want vengeance? You want a spell protection? You want love or come back? You want whatever? Come to me. I am open and for sale. This is both good and bad for voodoo because it makes voodoo popular. It brings voodoo into the public eye. However, it also brings bad press. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. So, y'all.